Now, when one has a stiff chassis, it has many advantages. It allows the manufacturer to get a great balance between ride and handling. So let's take a look at just that, the ride and handling of all the cars. Now, whilst the diesel SX4 isn't all new, Maruti did tweak the suspension a bit as well while dropping in the new motor. With its large wheels, massive ground clearance and now softer suspension, the SX4 seems to glide over roads, especially at low speeds. But this soft suspension setup has a downside. The car pitches on rough roads, and at higher speeds you do tend to get bounced about a bit in the back seat. Well, what is that back seat like?
Now the SX4 does have good space at the back. It feels nice and airy because it's got big glass areas. The only thing though is that the seats are just a bit too soft, so they won't be all that comfortable for a long drive.
Now, whilst Karthik was enjoying the ride, I was checking out the handling. The SX4 steering is nice and light and easy in the city, but it's a bit inconsistent when you're cornering hard, so it doesn't leave you with a feeling of confidence. Plus, the high center of gravity gives you a lot of body roll. So all in all, you're left feeling a bit unsettled. City-based soft suspension setups aren't uncommon. The Vento and the Verna both suffer from the same. Given the Vento's performance, we wished it had slightly stiffer springs. The Vento lacks the composure of a typical European car. The Vento has a steering that's biased towards low speeds in city traffic too, feather light when going slow and devoid of feel when you exceed city speeds. But the Vento does have some advantages, and that is space in the back seat.
Now the back seat of the Vento has a huge advantage because of the amount of legroom on offer here. You can adjust it, you can decrease or increase it just using this lever here. And on top of that, the ride is quite soft. It's not in the same league as the Fiesta or the Linea, but if you have to be chauffeured around in the back seat of a car, taking everything into consideration, this is the back seat you want to be in.
Like in the Vento, the Verna has a soft setup geared towards city commuting. At low speeds, the ride may be pliant, but as speeds ride, the overtly soft suspension raises its ugly head. The car rolls and bobs far more than any of its rivals, and this can be a bit tricky for the driver too. You need consistent steering inputs to keep the tail in line. The one car that really impresses is the Italian Fiat, be it ride or be it handling.
Now the linear suspension was really quite a revelation when the car was first launched. It really didn't seem possible back then that a car of this class could have such a great compromise between ride and handling. It impressed us then, and it continues to impress us even today. At lower speeds, it handles the rough stuff really nicely. At higher speeds, it feels nice and confident, very flat. It really takes the worst of the Indian roads without blinking.
Now, backseat space is a bit of a sore point for the Linea. The legroom and the headroom are a bit tight for taller passengers. But the Linea does offer, like the Vento, AC vents at the rear to keep you comfortable. What is really comfortable is the way that the Linea handles. The hydraulically assisted steering of the Linea is a real joy. It gives you a great amount of feedback and you can really throw this car around corners. The body control is also good, keeping it very planted, making you feel safe and secure when you corner in this car. We've always liked the handling of the Linea and we still love it. Now, that leaves us with the newcomer on the block, the Fiesta. The Fiesta Classic had always been our ride and handling benchmark, so we had great expectations from this newcomer.
Now when it comes to the ride quality, the Fiesta is setting a new benchmark. Going over things like that, it's really nice and pliant, and at higher speeds, again, it feels very flat, very confident. The disappointment though, however, is the back seat. The seats are set low, so you don't have enough under-thigh support. There isn't enough legroom again as compared to some of its rivals like the SX4, the Vento or the Verna for that matter. And the window sill again is very high, so it feels a little cooped in, a little claustrophobic.
To improve the handling on the front, the Fiesta uses something called the pull drift system in the suspension to give it more agility in corners, and it certainly seemed to work very well. Now Karthik, what makes this even more shattering is that along with that great ride quality that you're talking about, this car handles really well, and bear hugs the corners. It bounds around them like a cheetah. It's very agile and it inspires amazing amounts of confidence. Yeah, there is a little bit of disappointment in the electric power steering, but really not that much that it takes away from the handling. This car still makes you feel like you can throw it around corners, have fun with it. Yep, the power isn't there to help that. But I have to say that Ford engineers have done a good job with this steering, because whilst it weighs up nicely when you're going quicker, it's still light and easy in the city. Now, despite all that I've said, I have to add that it is not as accurate as that of the Lineas. So to sum it up, it would be the Linea that's the most fun to drive, as you can chuck it round corners with confidence. But the thumbs up for ride quality would go to the Fiesta. Now, if it's just comfort you're looking for, then the backseat that offered up the best would be the Vento. Whilst performance, ride, handling and looks are important in the diesel sedan segment, value is very important too. Let's take a look at price and fuel economy. Well, it's the Ford Fiesta that comes out the most efficient in city driving, and the Hyundai Verna that delivers the best mileage out on the highway. And when we consider overall figures, it's the Hyundai that inches ahead. When it comes to price, the top-end SX4 is the cheapest of the bunch, and with its features offers quite a value proposition. So it's been a tough day for us guys. The rains played havoc with us. 5 cars to shoot, very close competition. We've had a tough time. But, and as you see, it's starting to play havoc with us. But we're almost done, so I think we can give you your verdict. SX4, tried, tested, value for money proposition. But when you compare it with now this new lot in the bunch, it feels lackluster on the performance, on the handling. The interiors also don't quite come up to the mark.
Right.
So it feels a little left behind.
Like, talking about newer competition, the Linea is relatively new, I mean, in this segment, so to speak. It's got great ride and handling, we've said that before. It still is there today. But the shortcomings that we felt back then when it was launched seem even more glaring today, like the fit finish. It just doesn't have that refinement.
The refinement, exactly.
Yeah. The bottom end, again, in terms of drivability, the other cars are offering more now. So it just doesn't work all that much. And
there's Fiat after sales and service that people are really worried about, which really hasn't helped. Neither the rain god's helping us, but we're going to finish this for you guys. And we have the solid steady German, which was our winner earlier on in all our comparisons. Spacious backseat, good enough performance. But now when you compare it to the newer two, it's actually looking like it lacks on features and it's become an expensive proposition.
It does feel more expensive now.
Well, we're left with the Verna and the Fiesta. Now, when Karthik did his test drive, the Verna came out as the winner. Does it still have enough to stay ahead, or is the Fiesta a Verna beater?
Well, let's go with the good points of the new Fiesta. Ride and handling is superb, new benchmark. It's really got great refinement. It's got an excellent option list, but some of those options seem a little superfluous.
Are there things that you need in your everyday life? I mean, you could do without cruise control, without voice command.
Yeah, and I don't mind paying that 50 grand less and living with that, that makes more sense to me. The thing is, on the key areas is where the Fiesta is missing. The back seat isn't as comfortable as most of what the rivals have to offer, and the performance is also lacking. So it just ends up feeling a bit pricey.
The performance is accentuated because the handling's so good, you miss the performance even more.
All the more. That's right. Which brings us down to...
Yeah, that's it. The Fiesta feels pricey, even though it has features. It feels at a premium, missing in a few key areas. That brings us down to the winner, the Verna, still staying ahead. Decent enough backseat, great performance. Okay, the handling is not so great, but when you look at it as an overall package with the kind of features that it offers, the kind of interiors it offers, it comes across as the value for money proposition and still the best pick in this bunch.